हमें देखना है जापान का टेक्नोलॉजी इस्तेमाल करके strange education system that hasn't given us wisdom. It has given us skills, stupid skills, to survive. Somebody is shouting, the nation wants to know, and somebody is shouting back, and don't mess with me. I'm going to, beat the hell out of everybody.
Thanks, Adil sir, for joining again. And it was lovely hearing you talking about your love for art. And it does sees from you that you are interested in various form of arts. Now, one of the art form which I may say it's art form, which is a stand-up comedy. We got to know that when you started your career, you were into political satire through your stand-up
Yeah,
comedy. I mean, you used to do mimicry. So you have
yeah.
talked about doing mimicry of Rajiv Gandhi as well. So my but my question was like, in today's era of polarization all around, how easy is it to do a political satire?
Well, people are doing it. I can see a lot of actors, political stand-up comedy, you know, including Haisikavis, the poets. They're doing it a lot.
Mhm.
They might, I don't know what they face. They face a lot of, I think, flax as well, but people are doing it. Mm, and I think it is important. Humor is such a good way to sort of allow people to believe that don't take life so seriously. It's not the end of the world, Even if you die, it is not end of the world. It's easy for me to say I'm not dead yet, or nobody that I love who has faced it. But I believe in the core belief of this part of the world, which that's why I differ from a lot of my brothers. Like one of my brother is a hardcore communist. One of my brothers is he is a Muslim Orthodox, and my father was an atheist. But I believe in the story of that I'll be back again, and that gives me courage. That gives me also amazing ability to empathize with people who I don't like. Like, oh, he could be or she could be my mother in my next life, if I die right now. So these are powerful stories, and stories are so important. Stories, narratives, they give courage and they give insights to human beings. That's why art is so important in human life. All those people for 5 months had been dealing with art, had been seeing, unfortunately, only or most of the series or films on almost all the OTT platforms deal with the lower depths of humanity,
Mhm.
unfortunately. There are very
Yeah,
few which uplifts you, gives you wisdom, but those
actually.
actually sell very quickly because it stirs the lower movements, as they say. It's easy to stir your fear and your sexuality and tickle those parts, but very difficult to make films like Life of Pi. Very
Mhm.
difficult to make films like Life is Beautiful, or films like what Chaplin made, that it talks about everything and yet it gives you
Yeah.
certain hope. It's very difficult to make. It's very easy to make films which are dark and all that. So with humor, one can deal with all the so-called cruelties and suppression and repression, and you still laugh, and that makes me a sort of a human being with better equipment, that I'm dealing with life. And those are the people are respected more. Those who do not complain and constantly complain, oh, this is happening, that is happening, my head is aching, and why this. People you go to listen to are those people who stand in the storm and yet do not complain. The tree that you take shelter are the trees which can withstand the storms. So we have very few examples of those kind of people. If you look at the television, you see, somebody is shouting, the nation wants to know, and somebody is shouting back, and all those shouting that happen, you don't like those people,
No, no,
because you
no.
don't like complaining and blaming all the time. Nobody is trying to take the responsibility the way they actually feel. I am feeling the way I am feeling because I choose to feel that way. You are not responsible for the way I am feeling. This I have learned through very hard work as an actor, because the emotional faculties are within my body. It's not
Mhm.
inside you. You might have the trigger, but I feel the way I feel, and I choose to feel. If
Yep.
Ang Lee says action, and if I can laugh or cry, why can't I say action to myself
Right.
and laugh? I'm capable, I have the mechanism within, but I know it. Then some people might argue that you are an actor, so you can do it. As if I can do it, everybody can do it. You don't need to be an actor. You just have to be interested that you want to live your life wonderfully without without empowering other people or giving the privilege to other people to make you feel the way you feel. Why can't you be independent of that? There are hundreds of tools to learn from, and India is a reservoir of those tools, but we are not interested in that. So I think humor is one of the most wonderful ways to deal with the world that we live in, and keeps us sane and keeps us, you know, and keeps us healthy. So yes, I used to be a stand-up comedian. We used to call, that word wasn't, we didn't use those, those words, stand-up comedian.
Okay.
We used to use satire. We were four in a group in Assam since 1985 till 1990, and then I joined National School of Drama and I came away. I had such fun. We used to criticize the hell out of the government, and some people say that we are covertly responsible for the fall of two governments.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you have also done a satire in the form of Z Plus. Like, we would
Yes,
like to see more of you on those kind of films, because that did have the socio-political undertone, and it did carry a message. The way you said about
yes,
Chaplin and even Ang Lee. And
yes, absolutely.
on that, maybe on a lighter note, since we have already mentioned it, can we please ask you to do some mimicry for us, maybe from those early days?
So we used to do comedy, satire on the Assam flood in those days, and still Assam
Oh,
flood
okay,
is
yeah,
claiming since
it's
my
in news.
childhood. Yeah. So it wasn't flood, and this person would come and would say, "Oh, Assam flood is." We used to use this dialect, which is very funny dialect in Assamese, so we'll not understand that. So I'll try to do it. The, so there are two people, the
Hmm.
two senior members. They would go to the stage, and we use this form called Ojapali. Ojapali is an Assamese folk form
Okay.
where they used to criticize again the authorities and the royalties. So one person who is the senior most and the junior, so he would always speak to the junior guy and says, "Do you know why why flood is so important, and why? That we are the only species on the planet Earth that who lives in water for 6 months and on the land for 6 months, and the government is trying to wipe out this species. It's not fair. So you have to stop them from stopping the flood." So how do we stop them? So we used to go on like that, and in the process we would call the chief minister of Assam, and I would imitate the chief minister of Assam. In those days, Prafulla Mohanto was the chief minister. And then so this person, the senior person, he would reject the chief minister, because the chief minister is saying, "No, the central government knows, the central government hasn't done this, the central government hasn't done that." So he said, "What the hell are you doing here? Then you get the hell out of here. Let's call the central government." So we would come, I would come back as Rajiv Gandhi. The Rajiv Saab, the proposal that we gave you during the time of flood, in the when you travel, when you come to see us, how we are doing in a helicopter, you're supposed to cry artificially, and are supposed to increase the flood water. What happened with that, and things like that. So you'll say, "हमें देखना है जापान का टेक्नोलॉजी इस्तेमाल करके, हमें सोचना है, So he says, आप सिर्फ हमें सोचना है, देखना है, बोल सकते हैं, हमें कुछ करना है भी बोलिएगा, in Assamese Hindi.
In Assam, yeah.
Yeah. So, so many other characters that we used to use, and yeah.
But yeah, jokes about. Let's move back to Pariksha, because I just want to come back to Pariksha once more, because I have something particular to ask on that. So, like, obviously, you did a phenomenal performance there. But apart from that, Pariksha can be also remembered as a story of an outsider kid trying to break into this elite group on the strength of his merit only. So like this outsider insider issue is becoming so big right now. We are hearing it so much within this film industry. I'd just like to ask, what is your take on this, sir?
Well, I think it is a very, very, as I said before, when I was talking about how human beings gave into fear, it's just, we practice it every day, don't we? The person
Yeah.
who comes from outside to your house to cook is an outsider. He's a human being, but we
Hmm.
consider him or her not at par with us. We don't let him or her sit. I do, but I've seen households they don't, at the same table and have food. The person who drives your car, we don't treat that person equally. We don't. We pretend to, and there is a place that
Yeah.
if that line is crossed by that person, you're like, hey, stay there. You know, this is so human. This is so unfortunately human, but that's the truth. So when Bollywood practices it, it is in the limelight because their nature of business is such that they are in the limelight, and so are the politicians. So the only thing that I would say that film industry, if they consider themselves practitioners of art, then they should not. They should get away from this pettiness where
Yeah.
people are treated as outsiders or insiders. We are all insiders or we are all outsiders, you know. And I did not face that at all because I always lived in Delhi, and
Okay.
I didn't want to act in films. Someone came and sort of convinced me to act in films. Act in one of my first Hindi film was Ishqiya, and the director came to Delhi to convince me, Abhishek Chaubey, that
Abhishek.
it's a good role.
Mm.
Please act in this, and it's a good role. And I liked the person. I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I did one, and then the second one happened, and the third, and so on and so forth. So when I go, like right now, I'm here in Glasgow, and I'm acting in this Bollywood blockbuster called Bill Bottom.
Bell button.
And I live in Delhi, and they said, but I said, I don't want to leave my family for 1.5 months or 2 months and go away, and I don't know whether I'll be able to come back if there is a lockdown. But they
Mhm.
insisted that we want you, please. So I said, okay, if you give me this much money, I will act. So they agreed. They could find another actor. So what I'm trying to say is that I have never faced it at all. I am
Okay.
deeply respected in the film industry, but I know that people have faced it.
Okay.
I have heard stories. Personally, I haven't, and that should not definitely happen. It should not happen because we are supposed to be the example for the common people in a sense, those who are not actors or those who do not practice art. We are supposed to be the example, not only because we practice art, but we are also constantly in limelight. People look up to you,
Yeah.
and you have to set examples of the higher values of human beings, humanity. That's what we are supposed to do, not pettiness, and not all the things that we preach about. We are not supposed to do. We should not practice it ourselves. So what is the point of doing or practicing art then if it doesn't cure you of your those elements which is within you, which you don't like yourself, you know then how will
Right.
audience be benefited? So it has become a product, as you have said, the first question that you asked me. And the intent behind making most of the films is to profit and not a gift to the humanity, to help humanity to see the macro picture of life. It in fact, it in fact propels you to get busy with the micro spaces, microcosm, and makes you feel more fearful and more um, what do you call that? Narrow, more. Yeah, it just makes you scared for life. It pushes you to the edge, and that should not be the motive of art. You know, art, that's not art in the first place. It's just a film. Then it cannot be an art. And to
Yeah.
to to raise yourself or raise your work of yours to the level of art, then you have to fulfill, according to my understanding of art, you have to fulfill a lot of qualities. It has to give you, it has to uplift you and to take you away from your miseries, at least not miseries that you escape, not that escaping, but you confront it, you see it head on, and yet you feel good about it. It's a very difficult quality, difficult thing to accomplish as writers, directors, actors as well.
Yep, it's indeed, and thanks for your insight. I believe what you have said about looking into the within will not only help to change the industry, but we as a human being as well. And I think like
Yes,
I have to think through it. After this discussion, I will probably have to see how I behave with people as well. I mean, right, as they say,
we
charity
do. We
begins at
all
home.
do. We all do. We all
I mean,
do. I think it's so important that this is a good time. That's why I said COVID-19. I tweeted, I remember, I think 1 week after COVID-19 lockdown happened, that COVID-19 lockdown will brutally test us, all of us. It has brought all the leaders on their knees. It has locked us. It has made us see how common people had suffered in India and across the globe, that people have walked from their respective cities to their villages, heart-wrenching, images that I have seen. And for us, they're like, oh, they're like, imagine 5,000 or 10,000 doctors are walking on the street and their children are dying on the street, or 100,000 or even 20,000 lawyers or corporate officials are walking on the street and carrying their babies on their back and on their rolling suitcases. How will the country behave? Who we value and who we don't value. This is a complete bias in the media. So media is not, as I said, they haven't landed from Mars. They are also product of a society. I'm not blaming them. I am included in them. We are responsible for the behavior that we see in politics, in the politicians, in the media, in actors, in other society. We all are accomplices. That's what I said that in the tweet, that people who and we are all connected, and we are all going to face the music.
yep. Actually, on that note, when you talk about change, I do have something on kind of similar lines, which will be probably my last question. So this question I can divide into two parts. So in one of your earlier interviews, you had mentioned that I generally prefer the stories where reconciliation happens. Now, Kannada movies on films like Akuni, am I pronouncing it correctly? Akuni, how is it?
Akhoni.
Akuni, yeah.
Akhoni.
Akoni, okay.
No,
Akoni.
no, no. You can't do that easily. It's very difficult. It's
Oh,
ho,
ho,
ho.
ho.
It's
Okay.
between ho and ka.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like a film like that, can it help in reconciliating the path of maybe embracing between Northeast and other states? And also on that note, I mean, in Indian diaspora, like, can cinema be a maybe critic of the society and help in raising concerns? Since most of this film on this real issues are not mainstream enough to reach a wider audience, then how can we change the mindset if cinema at all can change?
Yeah, cinema changes. I mean, I know the impact of the power of cinema. I remember coming out from the cinema hall watching Yado Ki Barat in 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt I am Dharmendra, and don't mess with me. I'm going to, beat the hell out of everybody. And the impact on the emotional body of the young, impressionable age, people of that age, and we start speaking, we start borrowing the lines, the words spoken by our heroes, and the idea of love, the idea of misogyny, the idea of you know how to look down at people or look up at people. Everything it's a mass medium. It has got a huge power over people. After we grow up, when we watch it, of course it has got its impact. If uh, but it changes. It is the intensity is lesser because we have already formed our opinions and all that. It has the power to change. Do you know that America during Second World War, they hired the best 5 directors to inspire people to join the army to make films. They made films.
No.
They looked like as if they're the heroes, and the best of the directors. And they were sent to Europe to cover the war, make films in order to inspire people to join army. So cinema is extremely powerful. If somebody denies it, then they're wrong. Some people, I have heard some directors say, "Oh, we are not here to change the world. We are not here to change the society. I'm just doing a film." But they have no clue that how powerful it is and how deeply it impacts people's lives. So they should not say that. And definitely that since it's powerful, so people should be responsible to use the power, because it is important to use that amazingly powerful tool in the hands of responsible people. But you cannot, we are in democracy, and it should be that way. We cannot say, oh, you can't make a film or you can't make a film. Everybody has the power. And with this technology that you and I are using right now, everybody can make a film. So what can you change then? Not with rules and regulations. That will, people will find a way to flout all those rules and regulations, including the ones who are supposed not to, you know, flout them. Those who are the keepers of the
Yeah.
constitution, they are flouting it themselves. So then what can we change? I feel that we can change through the radical shift in the education system,
Mm-hmm.
that it has to start from, class, in kindergarten. There's no other way I can see that happening. And the education system, which is a leftover of the British system, the war founded or established to create labors to run the country according to the British system. All the, like the police and the military and the bureaucracy and, all the other babus and clerks. So they needed that machinery to run. Our system, before the Britishers came, when the Mughals were there, even when they were there, it was Gurukul system. When I say Gurukul, means that if my son wants to become a potter or a carpenter, then I would find the best carpenter to take him, or to take him to a potter who would like to learn pottery. But then this system came, or if my son wants to be a mathematician, then I'll find a person, who will take him to the or her to the person and leave him there or her there, and will come out at the age of whatever 18 and practice. But we now believe in factory education, and I'm a product of that. But I hated it. I don't want my son to go to this school, and I think he's revolting already. So I'm thinking of taking him away from the school, because this is ridiculous the way they teach. And I think that every human being has the right to be facilitated according to their own interests, what they really like to do. Maybe you would like to be a flutist or a guitarist, or a person who would like to just grow trees, or a gardener. um, where is the opportunity? So we have made a certain profession very, very respectable. Like in our days, it used to be doctor, engineers, and teachers. Nowadays, I think the IT engineers and doctors and teachers, of course, COVID-19 has made doctors heroes, thankfully. And I hope that they also introspect and they behave as if not like businessmen, but as a service provider, and they
Mm-hmm.
really love humanity. I hope that happens, because I have heard horrid stories of medical bills from across the globe and the country as well in India, which is
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate. That is way more tragic than anything else, I feel. So I hope that they behave themselves as well. So it needs overall transformation in the education system, and teach or impart training to be more empathetic. What is lacking in our system of education is empathy, love, respect, compassion, humanity. This is what is lacking. The idea of the other has to go. We're all in it together. And the greatest appetite on the planet Earth is that the male 50% thinks the women are lower than them. That's the worst appetite. Then on the black people, more than that, And we don't see it. We don't talk about it much. That my father thinks my mother is inferior. I mean, used to. Can you imagine a mother who took the pain to give birth to the baby, and my dad or any male body cannot even imagine how painful that
Yeah.
is, has three more organs than the male body, the ovaries, womb, and uterus. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
it, with the simplistic design of the nature, and they have way more complex design. They have breasts to feed the child. I don't even have one, and still we think we are stronger than them. How stupid men can get,
Indeed.
you know so it is a strange education system that hasn't given us wisdom. It has given us skills, stupid skills, to survive, to cut throat of the other. So there is no other way, but we can make all the rules possible, but I doubt that is going to change anything.
I mean, thanks for your insights again. Like I do agree with, and if I want to talk about this patriarchy, the education system, I will go on and on. But anyways,
Me too. Yeah,
for the
don't
sanctity
start
of
me.
time, yeah, let me pass the baton to one of our co-owners and the host today, Shubhadev.
Sir, I actually, we were talking about the Akhoni, and we are talking about Northeast Indian movies.
Yeah.
Last year, actually, we watched Bhaskar Hazarika's Amis, and it stunned us. We mentioned this more than once in our videos. We actually tried to push some people to go and watch it in Kolkata. You have worked
Right.
with Bhaskar in Othanodi, which is another
Yes.
unique piece of art, actually. And
Yes. Yes.
we also have Reema Das, who did that wonderful film Village Rockstars. And
Yes.
excellent Assamese film is are coming out. Do you
Yes.
think it is the Assamese Renaissance, sir? Something different happening, or is it just that we were not exposed? This was always there, and we were not exposed, or is this something new, sir, which is happening here?
No, Assam had been always gifted with amazing writers, novelists, and short story writers. We had very few directors, film directors, because it's a skill, it's a craft that haven't been taken seriously, which will sort of help a script to sort of elevate itself into, and to have universal appeal. It's the same story everywhere, I think. We had Bhavendranath Saikia, we had Janu Borua with Gautam Bora. We had, have you seen a film called Majrati Keteki?
See that.
It's a very interesting film. I am there in the film, and not because I'm there. She's one of the very good directors, writers herself, Hantona Bordoloi. And there are some young ones which are coming out now. Gaurav Barua. I just saw a short film, and I immediately recommended it to one of my producers who bought the film, and now it is traveling the world. It's a short film, beautifully made. So yes, nowadays, because of the technology and also the exposure of people towards toward world cinema. It's not any more exclusive thing. You can access it through your phone, and if you have a little bit of money, you can do that. It used to be the case that only the Cine Club members in 70s or 60s, or 80s, only the Cine Club members would be able to watch those amazing movies coming out from Europe or South America or Iran. So now I think it is easier for people to sort of conceive, I can make a film like this. For example, Rima Das's film it's just amazing. It's so beautiful. Village Rockstar, Bulbul Can Sing.
Yes.
I think Village Rockstar is one of the most beautiful films that I've seen. And she is from a tiny little village, which I cross without even noticing it from when I go to Assam, from Guwahati to Gwalpara from the airport. When I go to my hometown, I don't even, it's the attitude. And it's like, chota shehar hai, chota gaon hai. That's the same attitude that we have towards other people also,
Right.
Like, acha, he's the driver, he's this and he's that, unfortunately. So she comes from there, and she wrote, she directed, she edited, she photographed, she's a cinematographer, she produced it. I'm like, hats off. She is a one-woman army, and she's so inspiring, and she's so humble. Bhaskar Hazarika's Kothanodi, I always tell Bhaskar that what's wrong with you, Bhaskar? Why are you looking at the dark side of it all the time? He's very sweet. I'm like, why not the lighter side of it? How long? We are already in the dark spaces in this juncture of humanity. Why do we need to go again dig into the darkness?
Right.
And Amis is also, I'm like, and he's made it so well. It's very credible that he set it in a small little town and you believe in it. So my teacher says that the vulture, it flies very high in an amazing, skillful eye, but it looks at the carcass, at the lower depth of humanity. I somehow feel that we don't need to do that. We have enough of it. All the OTT platforms are filled with that. And I think we need to make films. I'm not saying we should not talk about murder and all that. I'm not saying that. But we have such skill. Like the disaster films are being made by Hollywood is extremely well. So it's somehow feel that we need something else. We need some more. I'm not talking about positivity, so-called new age thing. No, I'm talking about we have to equip people, not with fear, but with courage and hope. That's what we need. Like how many people are looking or meeting psychiatrists in COVID-19 situation? So what has art done to help them? Nothing. Why art could not help them to equip themselves with that sense of beauty, to appreciate, to live in as much as they have, to appreciate little things, small things, and little, what do you call that? To live life with the bare minimum. Why don't we have that courage to do that? Why haven't we equipped humanity through the art, all kinds of art, especially cinema, because it's the most powerful medium of art, that we can love our own company. Some of them we have learned in spite of that. But most of us, we are not. We have been looking for, why can't we just fall in love with our own solitude? Art can do that. So what is the role of art in last 100 years if we haven't done that, if we couldn't do it yet? So I have problems with films like that, which takes us to the darker spaces. It is important to introduce ourselves that we have it. Yeah, theek hai,
Right.
but we don't need to nourish it. We don't need to put water on it, or to what do you call that? To cherish it. We need to find the other spaces within, which are more helpful to live our life in a more satisfying way.
Could you
That's
give
my
us a few
problem.
examples, sir, of such movies which you think
I have
appeal to
already
you
given
more?
you.
Yeah, like
I have
this
already
beautiful.
given you.
Yes.
At least there are. I have a film curated by my teacher, 300 films, which he has chosen after watching 4 times. And if he only feels to watch it again, the same film, then only put it in that. And it's so inspiring, so inspiring. It's not necessarily like goody films. No, I'm not talking about that. After watching it, you feel that you feel like, for example, the film called The Floating Willow. It's a Japanese film made in 1936. I can send you the list if you want. I think it's very important that
Absolutely, sir.
we start
Absolutely.
introducing art, and which gives you courage to live and stand and withstand the storm.
Right, sir.
If it shakes your roots by just and you're consuming and devouring all these films which are all on OTT platforms, if it doesn't help you to consolidate your courage, then it's a junk food, basically. KFC or McDonald's you're eating.
Yeah.
Not good for your system. I can't say much because I'm not allowed to say much. You don't need a lot of money to make good films. You need a lot of art and good, So I become the actor who acts in the most expensive series on earth. Popular platforms like Amazon and Netflix and Hotstar, they need to even open up more. And we all have to together make a choice that do we want to live like this?